Imagine living in a time when kings feared a single silent visitor more than an entire army. Across the mountains of Persia, whispers spread about a mysterious brotherhood whose members could infiltrate the most heavily guarded palaces, eliminate powerful rulers with astonishing precision, and disappear without a trace. They didn't rely on massive armies or brutal invasions. Instead, they turned patience, intelligence, and absolute devotion into their deadliest weapons. Their name would echo through history for nearly 1,000 years, the Assassins. But who were they, really? Were they fearless warriors fighting for justice, ruthless killers carrying out political murders, or victims of centuries of exaggerated legends? Stories claim they were drugged with hashish before missions, promised visions of paradise, and willing to sacrifice their lives without hesitation. Yet modern historians tell a far more complex story, one that separates myth from reality. Today, we'll uncover the truth behind one of history's most misunderstood secret societies. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the word assassin is still used today in the English language, and whether the terrifying legends you've heard were ever true. To understand the Assassins, we must first travel back to the 11th century. The Middle East was not a peaceful land but a battlefield divided by powerful empires, rival Muslim dynasties, and the arrival of the Crusaders from Europe. Every kingdom fought to expand its influence, while alliances shifted constantly. Ordinary people lived under the shadow of war, political intrigue, and religious conflict. In this dangerous world, survival often depended more on intelligence than on military strength. During this period, the powerful Seljuk Empire controlled much of Persia and the surrounding regions. Although the Seljuks claimed to protect the Islamic world, not everyone accepted their rule. Religious and political tensions grew as different Islamic groups competed for influence. Among them was a small branch of Ismaili Muslims who believed true leadership belonged to a different line of rulers. Outnumbered and surrounded by enemies, they needed a strategy unlike anything the world had ever seen. That strategy would soon change history forever. At the center of this extraordinary story stood one man, a brilliant thinker, a master strategist, and the founder of the assassin movement. His name was Hassan-i Sabbah. Long before he became one of the most feared figures in history, Hassan-i Sabbah was simply a young man with an extraordinary passion for knowledge. Born in Persia around the middle of the 11th century, he devoted himself to studying mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and Islamic theology. Unlike many military leaders of his time, Hassan believed that ideas could be more powerful than swords. His sharp mind, patience, and unwavering determination would eventually shape a movement that challenged some of the greatest empires of the medieval world. After embracing the Nizari Ismaili faith, Hassan traveled across Persia, quietly building a network of loyal followers. Rather than raising an army, he recruited people who shared his beliefs and trained them to think strategically, remain disciplined, and stay completely devoted to their mission. Hassan understood that a small, highly organized group could accomplish what thousands of soldiers could not. His greatest opportunity would come when he discovered a mountain fortress that seemed almost impossible to conquer, Alamut Castle. Instead of attacking the fortress with force, Hassan used something far more powerful: patience, planning, and deception. The capture of Alamut would become one of the most remarkable operations in medieval history. Perched high above the valleys of northern Persia, Alamut Castle seemed untouchable. Built on a steep rocky mountain, it was protected by towering cliffs and narrow paths that made a direct assault nearly impossible. Most commanders would have needed a massive army to capture such a fortress. Hassan-i Sabbah chose a completely different approach. Instead of attacking with weapons, he quietly sent trusted followers into the surrounding villages. Over months, and according to some accounts, years, they earned the confidence of local people and gradually gained influence inside the fortress itself. In 1090, Hassan took control of Alamut with almost no bloodshed. The fortress became far more than a military stronghold, it became the heart of the Nizari Ismaili movement and the headquarters of the group that would later be known as the Assassins. From this isolated mountain refuge, Hassan built a disciplined organization connected by messengers, hidden outposts, and absolute loyalty. Powerful rulers underestimated the small fortress at first, but they would soon discover that its influence stretched far beyond its stone walls. But how could a relatively small group challenge mighty empires without a large army? The answer lay in a secret organization built on discipline, intelligence, and unwavering commitment. From Alamut, Hassan-i Sabbah created an organization unlike anything the medieval world had ever seen. Every member had a specific role, and loyalty was valued above everything else. Messages traveled through trusted couriers, while hidden fortresses across Persia and Syria formed a network that could share information with remarkable speed. Secrecy was essential. The fewer people knew about an operation, the greater its chance of success. This careful structure allowed the group to survive despite being surrounded by far more powerful enemies. The assassins rarely fought large battles because they knew they could never defeat great empires on open battlefields. Instead, they focused on carefully planned missions against powerful political and military leaders. Their goal was often to remove a single influential person rather than wage a long and destructive war. This strategy spread fear far beyond the reach of their small numbers. Kings, generals, and governors realized that no amount of wealth or soldiers could guarantee complete safety if they became a target. Their missions demanded extraordinary discipline. But who were the men chosen for these dangerous assignments, and how were they prepared to risk everything? Joining the assassins was not as simple as picking up a weapon. New recruits were carefully observed before they were accepted into the organization. Intelligence, patience, self-control, and absolute loyalty were considered far more valuable than physical strength. Those who proved themselves worthy spent years learning languages, religious teachings, survival skills, and the art of blending into crowds without attracting attention. Their greatest weapon was not the dagger they carried, it was their ability to remain invisible until the perfect moment. Contrary to popular legend, there is no solid historical evidence that assassin recruits were routinely drugged with hashish or magically transformed into fearless killers. Most modern historians believe these stories were spread by their enemies and later repeated by travelers, including Marco Polo, long after Hassan-i Sabbah had died. What truly made the assassins effective was rigorous preparation, unwavering discipline, and a powerful belief in the cause they served. Their reputation became so terrifying that, in many cases, fear alone achieved what armies could not. Soon, the assassins would carry out operations that shocked the medieval world. Their most famous targets included powerful rulers, generals, and even men who believed themselves untouchable. The assassins became famous not because they carried out countless killings, but because they chose their targets with extraordinary precision. One of their earliest and most significant victims was the Seljuk vizier Nizam al-Mulk, one of the most powerful men in the Islamic world. In 1092, he was killed by a man believed to be disguised as a religious scholar. Whether every detail of the story is accurate remains debated, but his death sent a powerful message: even the mightiest leaders were not beyond the assassin's reach. Over the following decades, the assassins targeted governors, military commanders, and influential political figures across Persia and Syria. They usually struck in public places, using concealed daggers instead of armies or siege weapons. These attacks were designed not only to eliminate an individual but also to send a psychological warning to every enemy who opposed them. Their reputation spread so widely that many rulers increased their personal security, fearing that an assassin could be hiding among servants, guards, or even trusted advisors. But one question has survived for centuries. Were these men really called Hashashin because they used hashish before their missions, or is that one of history's greatest myths? For centuries, one story has followed the assassins wherever their name is mentioned. According to the legend, young recruits were given hashish, taken into beautiful gardens filled with music, flowing rivers, and luxurious food, then told they had experienced paradise. After waking up, they were promised they could return to that paradise only by obeying their leaders without question. It is a dramatic story, and one that inspired countless books, movies, and video games. However, modern historians have found little reliable evidence to support this famous tale. Many believe it originated from the enemies of the Nizari Ismailis, who wanted to portray them as fanatics rather than disciplined political opponents. Even the famous traveler Marco Polo described these stories nearly 2 centuries after the height of the assassins' power, making his account impossible to verify firsthand. Today, most scholars agree that the image of drugged killers is far more legend than historical fact. Their greatest weapon was not hashish, it was careful planning, patience, and psychological warfare. Whether the legends were true or not, they terrified the world. Even the crusaders who arrived from Europe had heard frightening stories about the mysterious mountain warriors. By the mid-13th century, the rise of the Mongol Empire brought an end to the assassins' mountain strongholds. In 1256, Alamut Castle fell, and much of their organized network was destroyed. Yet while their fortresses disappeared, their reputation survived. For centuries, stories about the assassins continued to spread across Europe and the Middle East, blending historical facts with myths until it became difficult to separate one from the other. Their influence reached far beyond their own time. Today, the word assassin is used worldwide to describe a political killer, showing how deeply this medieval group influenced history and language. But their story teaches us something deeper. History is rarely as simple as the legends we inherit, and behind every myth lies a more complex truth waiting to be discovered. The assassins may have vanished centuries ago, but their legend still lives every time the word assassin is spoken.